You know, he's young, but he's already an executive at his company, making $150,000 a year. Truly an elite graduate from a prestigious university. He's in a different league compared to you, a high school graduate.
Huh? People still just graduate from high school these days.
My ex-girlfriend, whom I met again after 10 years, snuggled up to her boyfriend next to her as they both looked down on me. She apparently hasn't changed at all since back then, and she seemed to know nothing. Well then, let me enlighten her, who I am and why I'm here, and what's going to happen to them. I am Jake Johnson. I was born the eldest of a family of 4, with my dad running a business, my supportive mom, and my younger sis, Chloe, who is 7 years my junior. Perhaps because we are years apart, Chloe's a very adorable and precious sis to me. However, she had a weak heart since birth and often had episodes leading to frequent hospitalizations. Longing for the outside world more than anyone, Chloe, who couldn't attend daycare much, was holding back her desire to go out and play. I felt sorry for her and wanted her to get better soon. So it became my daily routine to visit her in the hospital and tell her about my day. As soon as school was over, since I was in elementary school, thankfully, I was a lively and bright child who never particularly struggled with studies or sports since elementary school. I was a blessed child who never had trouble with friendships. When I entered high school, studies became significantly more challenging, but I never skipped self-study as I wanted to teach Chloe when she could finally attend school. Perhaps due to that, I maintained top grades in my grade. There were various rumors saying things like I'm a bookworm or a boring guy due to adolescence, but I didn't care at all. Amidst all this, I got my first girlfriend. Maureen Thompson is a lady rumored to have excellent grades and whose dad is an executive at a big company. We were originally friends, but I'd never thought that Maureen would confess to me. She is a beauty with distinct features and impressive glossy straight hair. She was so popular among both boys and girls that it would not be an exaggeration to call her the Madonna of the school. I was genuinely surprised when Maureen said, "I like you, please go out with me." However, I was equally happy, and thus, we officially started dating. After we started dating, we were often invited out and went to various places together. At that time, Chloe's condition had stabilized and she was discharged from the hospital, so I just casually mentioned to her at home that I got a girlfriend. Chloe, who was happy as if it was her own matter, was pestering to meet my girlfriend next time, talking about how she needs to get better for that. Maureen turned out to be more assertive than I thought, and even holding hands was initiated by her. Embarrassingly, I was somewhat pushed around and was nervous around the proactive Maureen, but the relationship itself was going smoothly. But then, during the winter of my sophomore year in high school, things took a turn. Chloe's health, which had been stable, suddenly deteriorated. In a rush, my parents took her to the hospital for a thorough examination, and it was declared that her heart condition was bad and it was life-threatening. Even as a child, I always thought Chloe's heart would eventually heal. That's why I believed she was undergoing treatment by being hospitalized. But when something close to a terminal diagnosis was declared, everything in front of me went dark in an instant. Around the same time, unfortunately, my dad's business started to decline. Chloe needed surgery. It was life-threatening if we didn't do it soon, but we were short of funds. My parents struggled to raise money from various places, but it still wasn't enough, and then they resorted to borrowing without a way to repay it. Eventually, they had to close down the company. Thanks to the surgery and treatment, Chloe's condition stabilized. However, it was said that her symptoms could worsen again at any time. She had to be hospitalized again, And because she was still young, my mom had to stay with her. Since my mom, who used to support my dad, became devoted to Chloe, my dad's work burden increased, and he was busy, coming home late every day with visible exhaustion on his face. At this rate, everyone will be ruined, both mentally and physically. My parents are nearing their limits. Even as a child, I thought about this, pondering for weeks before making a decision. One day, unusually, both my parents were home, and I sat in front of them just after dinner and said, "Dad, Mom, I have something to tell you." I'd never formally addressed anything like this, so, surprised, they both sat across from me.
What's the matter? Did something happen?
If it's a worry, tell us. Let's hear it.
It's not that. There's just something I want to say.
Something you want to say?
I'm thinking, after graduating, I won't go to college. I'll work.
Jake, what on earth are you talking about?
Jake, are you worried about money? I'm sorry, thank you. But we will handle the money, so you should go to college and study.
Until then, I was planning to go to the best college in the state, and I figured my parents would want that. No, I'm not going to college. I've decided I'll work for the family. As expected, my parents strongly opposed.
You can't. Nowadays, you at least have to go to college, or you'll regret it when you become an adult.
But
moreover, we know that you actually want to study, Jake. You don't have to worry about the money. You should do what you want to do.
my feelings were crystal clear to my parents. I wanted to go to college and learn. That was true. I wanted to learn new things. I wanted to expand my possibilities. I wanted to have more options in the future. But just as much, if not more, for me, family is the most important.
Jake.
Of course, I want to study. I want to learn more. But I can do that when I'm an adult. You can study whenever you want to. But I can only act for my family now. I want to be useful for my family. I was glad to hear their feelings. But my feelings didn't change. Hearing my determination and farts, my parents ended up crying.
I'm sorry for being so useless.
It's not that. It's because I want to do it.
Jake? Sorry. Thank you really.
And then, I desperately looked for a job and found work at a hotel with accommodation. Somehow, I managed to secure a job safely. A few days after securing the job, in the morning, I reported to Maureen. Due to family circumstances, I've decided not to pursue higher education and have secured a job at a hotel out of state with accommodation.
What? What do you mean?
So, I won't go to college. I'll work.
Work. We're still high school students. Let's go to college together. Please reconsider.
Yay. But it's already decided. She pressed me many times to reconsider. It's only natural. In this day and age, there are hardly any people who work just after high school. But no matter how much Maureen tried to persuade me, my feelings remained unchanged.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Can't it be changed?
Yes.
Okay, then, let's break up. Being with someone who's not going to college and long distance, I can't endure it. It's impossible. Let's break up.
To Maureen, who whispered through her tears, I could only nod and say, I understand. I'm sorry. Thank you for everything. In the end, we went our separate ways, each walking a different path. Although I was hung up on Maureen for a while, she seemed to quickly move on and soon started dating a top-performing guy. Feeling I had no right to be down about it, I pushed myself and began progressing talks with teachers, my parents, and potential employers for a job. One day, I saw Maureen laughing with a friend in the corridor.
But are you really okay with breaking up? You were so into it.
Come on, who wants someone with no future prospects? No matter how smart they are now. He said it was due to family circumstances. but it basically means he's poor. Rejecting someone who can't even afford college?
Well, that's harsh. It's so you. A villain behind that face.
Hey, stop it.
At the sound of the clearly mocking voice, I clenched my fists and bit my lip. It was frustrating, not my circumstances. I don't know if that was Maureen's true nature. Maybe I made her say those words. Anyway, everything was just unbearably frustrating. After that, Maureen and I, being in different classes, didn't exchange a glance or a word until graduation. Then time passed, and it was about 10 years later. I was headed to a high-end restaurant that was famous for being hard to book. Upon arriving at the restaurant, I slowly opened the sliding door. That's when I bumped into a couple.
Excuse me? Huh?
Oh. At the sound of that familiar voice, my thoughts froze for a moment. The woman in the couple was Maureen. It took me a while to realize it was Maureen because she had become even more beautiful and sophisticated as an adult. She, who looked surprised and rounded her eyes at me, frowned the next moment.
Why are you here? It's not a place for you.
Why am I?
I came here with my boyfriend. You should leave before you get kicked out.
The man who nodded at her words introduced himself as Seth Smith. He was wearing a well-tailored suit, and both his shoes and watch seemed expensive. Maybe because I was staring at him from top to bottom in surprise, Maureen began bragging unasked.
He, despite being young, is an executive in his company, and his annual income is $150,000. He's a true elite from a prestigious university. Different class from a high school graduate like you.
What? There are high school graduates nowadays.
The man also laughed mockingly, sizing me up. However, I found his face familiar. Smith, where have I seen him? Thinking about it, I remembered and opened my mouth.
What? I told you, you should leave quickly. Or do you have some business with us?
Are you by any chance the manager of the new luxury hotel opening near the station?
You know a lot. Are you an employee or a cleaner? Either way, remembering the face of the manager is commendable, but even so, we can't raise your salary.
Come on, Seth. That's rude, isn't it?
It's fine. It's the truth.
Seth and Maureen laughed condescendingly at me, looking satisfied. I said, "No, that's not it," and took out my business card holder from the suit I was wearing. I am not entirely unrelated. I am a CEO of the Wilson Group that manages the hotel. I just took office, so I thought you might not know.
What?
Handing my business card to the dumbfounded Seth, he took it reflexively. Then, he stared at the business card. The text reads, "Chief Executive Officer there." The name Wilson Group is something Seth Smith would see every day. I would be your boss. I'm in the position to pay you a salary of $150,000. Well, it's still just planned, though. I mumble, sighing. Hearing this, the two compare the business card and me and start to tremble, turning pale.
What's going on? Why would a high school graduate like you?
Well, a lot happened. Talking about it here would cause trouble at the restaurant. Let's move to another spot. I say, calming Maureen, who seems to be panicking, and we leave the restaurant for a quieter place.
Tell me, why are you the CEO?
I think back to the events of 10 years ago at her words. The hotel I started working at after high school, living in, was indeed historic, but it was on the verge of collapse due to poor management. But it was practically the workplace that took me in. I worked hard to repay the favor. To the other employees, I, a high school grad, was still just a kid, of course. I thought I would be treated as a nuisance, but they recognized my efforts and were fond of me. I think the hotel itself was clean and beautiful, being well maintained despite its age. We could enjoy the wonderful views and the amazing dishes of the chef, and we had many repeat customers. However, we struggled to increase new customers, which threatened the management. Wanting to do something about the hotel's situation, I consulted with my boss. To attract a younger demographic, we started using social media for promotion. This strategy worked, and it quickly became a topic of conversation. The entire historic town where the hotel was located also started attracting more visitors. As a result, employees from other hotels also started to appreciate it. I was happy to see everyone happy and realized that even someone like me could be useful for the hotel. I immersed myself in social media, making videos, and improving my PC skills. During this time, a man visited to stay. He seemed interested to know that an employee like me was working and living in. A man introduced himself as Alexander Wilson, tried to hold me back to talk while I was working. However, other employees would appear out of nowhere and protectively pull me away, piquing his interest even more. Once, an elderly female employee stepped in front of Mr. Wilson, saying, "Excuse me, but please stop trying to detain employees while they are working." It was clear from her words and expression that she was thinking, enough is enough.
He needs money, as his little sis is seriously ill. That's why he's working harder than anyone else, and we are all supporting him. Please don't disturb him.
She raised her voice, which was always polite to customers. Although surprised, I learned that the two seemed to know each other. Even after I intervened, she kept scolding Mr. Wilson. That night, I overheard the conversation between the landlady and Mr. Wilson.
I'm thinking of folding this hotel.
Owner, it can't be helped.
I'm sorry, even though everyone is doing their best.
From their conversation, it seemed that Mr. Wilson is the owner of the hotel and is planning to close it. It also seemed that the employees would be referred to other hotels and inns owned by him. I couldn't help but interrupt, saying, "Please wait." The two looked surprised and uncomfortable. I pleaded with them. This hotel may be old, and we may have fewer new customers, but we have many repeat customers, and we provide the utmost hospitality to those who visit. We want them to think about coming again. The food is delicious. The room is comfortable. There are many hotels nationwide. There are many better places than here, but there are things that can only be experienced at this hotel. Many choose this hotel, and anyone who has stayed even once always comes back. Always. Is there any other hotel like that? We have many guests who say they will come back to meet us. They say this place is good. Isn't that incredible? Closing such a wonderful hotel? Absolutely not. I didn't really know what I was saying. My mouth was moving faster than my brain. The effects of social media are finally appearing. The number of people who come to see the videos is increasing. Just a little more. In a little more time, this hotel will become more famous. Definitely. I will make it happen. So, please don't talk about closing the hotel. Closing the hotel is absolutely not allowed. That's the only thing that's not allowed. I somehow want to convey this feeling. Despite speaking fervently with all my heart for a while, the expressions on the two faces only became increasingly somber.
Jake Johnson, we appreciate your feelings, and we are happy. Thank you for thinking so much about this hotel. We know you've been working hard every day. Thanks to you, we have more guests. We really appreciate it. But there's nothing we can do.
Nothing we can do?
Right?
The landlady informed us with a sad face.
This whole area has been designated for land readjustment. We are being forced to vacate.
Land readjustment? How could?
The owner tried to negotiate with the government multiple times, but it's already a final decision, so he couldn't get through to them.
I'm so sorry, I'm powerless. Mr. Wilson said so, and I was at a loss for words. According to them, this place would become a national road, eventually facilitating the commute for many people. No matter how convenient it becomes, losing this hotel is...
So, it's over. This is a final decision.
The landlady looked at me, tears welling up in her eyes, and managed a smile. I couldn't say a word for a while, feeling as if I had been punched in the head.
You are Jake Johnson, right?
Yes.
Your farts seem suited to a hotel proprietor.
Huh?
How about it? Would you like to learn with me?
When I looked up, he was smiling. He, who owns many hotels and properties, took my hand and looked straight into my eyes.
You have the talent. The one who has revitalized this hotel.
Talent?
Yo, if you come to me, I'll make you a respectable manager with all responsibility. How about it?
I nodded to his words, and so I started working under him. After I started working, I understood. He is incredibly busy. He doesn't even have time to sleep. Following him around and working while learning various things. I never thought I was suited to be a manager. I was just working desperately. I have always loved studying. I also love learning new things. Therefore, I delved into studying management. When Mr. Wilson knew about my family's situation, he offered support. He introduced us to a renowned heart surgeon, and Chloe underwent a successful operation. In less than a year, she was able to run around outside. He also helped with the recovery of my dad's business, and my parents, in tears, thanked him and happily accepted becoming a part of the Wilson Group. I studied hard and worked desperately to absorb the work to repay Mr. Wilson. Eventually, I was recognized by him, and when he retired, I was unanimously chosen by the shareholders to succeed his position. And that was 6 months ago. I thought there was no need to tell everything to the two of them and explain briefly. Then, turning to Seth Smith, "Do you judge our hotel guests by their appearance or educational background?" I asked, and he shrugged his shoulders exaggeratedly.
That?
"Do you know our hotel's concept? We do our best to make every guest satisfied. Despite that, what was the attitude earlier? We need to consider whether we really need you in our hotel." Being effectively told he's fired, Seth started trembling. His face turned pale as if he was about to collapse. It felt sickening to watch.
But this one said the CEO is a high school graduate.
Hey, don't blame me.
It's your fault, isn't it? Stop saying unnecessary things.
What?
Do you believe everything she says? It's concerning how easily swayed by others' opinions you are.
Hold on, please.
No matter the reason, those who look down on others are not suited to be managers in a hotel where hospitality is paramount. We'll have to consider this internally going forward. Good to know early on. Thank you. Seth Smith crumbled right there. You haven't changed, have you? Addressing Maureen, who was standing frozen in place, she showed a moment of hope in her expression. You always judge people by their titles or education. You'll likely dump him too if his income drops or he loses his title. You must have been living like this all along. It must have hit the mark. She turned red in the face and yelled at me.
What?
So you, after dumping me back then, you laughed about it with your friends. I remember the words mocking me from when we were in high school.
What's wrong with that? Academic backgrounds and titles are the results of one's efforts. What's wrong with valuing them?
Well, you do have a point. However, isn't that insufficient to understand a person's true worth? For instance, I hear Mr. Smith has a fiancée within the company. It probably isn't about you. He seems genuine, but rumor has it that he's had flashy relationships with women. Though I heard such rumors, he was responsible in his work, so I approved him as a manager. I guess I need to reconsider human resources again. While I was thinking it, Maureen started to tremble.
What's this? Hey Seth. What does this mean? You said it was just me.
No, that.
Liar. A fiancé? Was it all a lie when you said you wanted to marry me in the future?
Maureen, almost grabbing Seth by the collar, confronts him, but Seth screams, "Oh, I'm so sorry," and runs away.
Wait, you liar.
She doesn't lose and chases after him at full speed. They gather glances from the people they pass by, but I don't want to get involved anymore. Rather, watching their retreating figures, I somewhat felt a weight lifted off my chest, a refreshing feeling. After they were out of sight, I opened the restaurant's door again. I apologize for being late. My name is Jake Johnson.
We've been waiting for you. Your party is waiting inside. Please come in.
I was a little late due to talking with those two. However, the restaurant's hostess welcomed me with a warm smile, and I felt relieved.
Mr. Johnson, your party is here.
Dad, Mom, Chloe, sorry for the wait.
Oh, Jake, you're here.
Jake.
Waiting were my parents and Chloe. Today, I had a reservation to enjoy a family meal after a long while.
It's like a dream to be able to dine in such a lovely place. Jake, thank you.
Don't say such things before we even start eating. I've reserved a course, so let's eat a lot.
It's my first time having a course meal. I'm excited.
I've also ordered your favorite strawberry dessert, so look forward to it.
Yay. Thank you, Jake.
Everyone smiles at Chloe's smile. Dad's business is back on track. Chloe's surgery was successful. She's been discharged. And Mom is supporting Dad while taking care of Chloe. Chloe, having lost most of her muscles due to the long hospital stay, is now working hard in rehab to strengthen her body. Moreover, she started dating a physical therapist she met there. And her smiling face is filled with happiness, making everyone joyful. Back in high school, after breaking up with Maureen, I couldn't have imagined such happy days would come. I was desperate for what was right in front of me, and I couldn't see anything around me. It's been a relentless 10 years, but I don't regret a thing about it. The world may continue to be tough on me, but I can proudly say I'm working hard for my family. These moments, laughing together with my family, are the happiest. I quietly savor this happiness. A few days later, I've been busy looking for a new manager to replace Seth. After meeting Seth at that restaurant, I looked into him more deeply, and a lot of bad information came from various places. Especially, he had a bad track record with women, and it seems he had been doing things similar to marriage scams to many women, not just Maureen. His engagement to one of our employees was a blatant lie, and due to her filing a complaint, he's now in police custody, and fraud charges have been established. When the arrest warrant was issued, I fired him because I didn't want him causing any more trouble to the Wilson Group. Maureen is a woman full of pride. She would be furious to know that she had been deceived by a scam artist and was just one of many. To tell the truth, she had been contacting me after that.
Can't we start over? This time, I want to support you. Please. We used to get along so well. I really liked you. After meeting you again, I realized you're the only one for me. Jake, it's me, Maureen. Are you watching? Please reply. Come on, reply.
When such messages came in one after another, I couldn't help but laugh, thinking, who's talking? Seeing that I read the messages, she kept sending more, and I got scared, so I deleted them without replying and blocked her. She tried to contact me through friends for a while, and even ambushed me at that restaurant, but now I really feel relieved. And it seems like I can take a new step forward. I was too busy to have a girlfriend until now. From now on, I want to find a lifelong partner. I genuinely feel that way. Today, as usual, While I was busy giving instructions to my subordinates, I received a message from the former Mr. Wilson.
Thanks to you taking over after me, life is fun.
With that message, a photo was sent showing him happily smiling with his arm around some indigenous people. After retiring from the Wilson Group, he had said he wanted to do what he loves and has been traveling around the world. I don't know where it is, but his smile is radiant and he looks really happy. Before I could reply, he sent many similar photos. When you are satisfied, please come back. The chairman's seat is always open for you. I replied, then a cute stamp with a bear saying, I don't want to come back yet, was sent, making me laugh. I casually sent a stamp back and got back to work. Life is unpredictable. Even when things seem to be going well, unexpected pitfalls can occur, and conversely, unexpected actions can lead to success when you think you're at rock bottom. For me, that was starting to work right after high school and being able to passionately tell Mr. Wilson about the good points of that hotel. The small resolution and enthusiasm at that time have made me who I am now. Reflecting on my life, I feel this way. My life was smooth sailing until I met the CEO's daughter. After graduating from college, I was assigned to the General Affairs Department of the headquarters of a precision machinery manufacturing company. The first 3 years were all odd jobs and I was like a jack of all trades, but as I gained experience, I came to be entrusted with contract signing, contract management, stock management, and preparation for shareholder meetings. Last year, I was promoted to deputy department head, and if things went smoothly, I could become a department head and even aim for a higher position. I had always been devoted to my job, but I also got a cute girlfriend who everyone envies at a social mixer I attended 2 years ago at the invitation of a friend. That's when I received a confession from the CEO's daughter.
I wouldn't mind dating you, Mr. Anderson.
She said. She joined the company through connections 3 years ago and was assigned to the General Affairs Department. But she hardly did any work, went home on time even if her work wasn't done, frequently left her seat to touch up her makeup in the bathroom or go shopping at a convenience store, and did whatever she wanted, taking advantage of the fact that no one scolded her because she was the CEO's daughter. I took great care not to upset her while explaining how to do the job, taking on unfinished work, and covering up her mistakes. Maybe she misunderstood and thought I liked her because of that. Despite her patronizing tone, I politely turned her down. I appreciate your feelings, but I already have a girlfriend, so I'm afraid I can't date you. It seemed unexpected for her to be rejected by me, and the CEO's daughter screamed with her eyes wide open and her face turning red.
Huh? Do you know who I am? I'm the CEO's daughter. If you marry me, you might be able to become the president, you know.
Sighing to myself at the trouble I'd gotten into, I replied, I don't intend to try to advance my career by marrying. I believe it only makes sense to be promoted because my achievements and abilities are recognized at work. She slapped my cheek and was furious.
How dare you embarrass me? Remember this.
The next day, I was called into the CEO's office. The CEO's daughter had complained that I had sexually harassed her, and the enraged boss didn't bother to hear my side of the story and announced my transfer to a factory in the countryside.
How dare you hurt my precious daughter? I'm letting you off easy by not firing you. Be grateful.
I was assigned to work at a factory in the countryside far from New York, so my relationship with my girlfriend became long distance. We had been dating for a long time and were considering getting married, so I decided to propose to her on this occasion. But when I told her that I had been transferred from the headquarters to a factory in the countryside for an unreasonable reason and asked her to come with me, her attitude completely changed.
You must be joking. I jumped at the chance thinking you were an elite office worker, but you're working at a factory in the countryside. Give me back all the time I've spent.
She was cute, kind, and considerate, and I believed she would make the best wife when we got married. Her false image began to crumble. With a broken heart, I headed for the countryside alone. I was assigned to the administration division of the factory. The factory is very large and has many employees, but there were only one section chief who was close to retirement, one female employee who was about to take maternity leave, and two part-time housewives in the administration division. The main tasks of the factory administration included answering phone calls, ordering supplies, data entry, and document management. I knew these tasks were important, but it was a pain for me, who had been in charge of crucial decision-making matters at the headquarters. When noon arrived, I headed to the company cafeteria. According to one of the part-time ladies, they only have two lunch options, A and B. But both are hearty, delicious, and cheap, served with soup and a side dish, so most employees use the cafeteria, she said.
Hey, are you new here? What's your name?
The cafeteria lady asked me. Although she was old enough to be a grandmother, she had an energy about her that warranted the affectionate title of Auntie. I'm Anderson, assigned to the admin department as of today. Surprised by the sudden question, I responded with a slight bow.
Best of luck, Anderson.
She then served me a hefty helping of rice, saying that a young guy like me should eat a lot. With brisk efficiency, Auntie went about her work, shouting cheery greetings to the employees, even through her mask. I was impressed by her vibrant personality and ate all of my meal so as not to waste her efforts. Each time I visited the cafeteria, Auntie would ask me, "Getting used to the job, or isn't our small town nice?" She was like a mother figure. In fact, many of the employees referred to her as Mom. 2 months later, a new female employee joined us to take over for a colleague on maternity leave.
Nice to meet you.
She's a woman with a gentle air about her, speaking with a soft and kind demeanor. It seems like she would be easy to work with. The part-time ladies didn't hesitate to ask her about her personal life. This is how I found out that Miss Johnson was unmarried, didn't have a boyfriend, and had previously worked at a factory that had gone bankrupt. Taking over for my colleague, who was pregnant, I showed Johnson around the factory.
Wow, it's so big.
Entering the workshop, Miss Johnson exclaimed excitedly, her eyes sparkling. Components flowed from the conveyor belt, quickly assembled by the employees and sent down the line for the next process. Finally, they were inspected and shipped out. Miss Johnson watched every step with great interest, asking detailed questions. When I asked if she liked factories, she said,
It's exciting to see small parts being assembled into one product, which is then used to create even larger products, don't you think?
Her childlike smile as she said this made her look adorable, and my heart skipped a beat. Until now, I had never thought about my job in the factory this way. I was usually just discontented with my situation. After this, my mindset changed. I started engaging positively with any task at hand and put my heart into my work. Surprisingly, I started finding joy in my job, which I had once considered a chore, and my days became fulfilling. Walking home while it was still light outside, I heard a voice from behind.
Good work, Anderson.
Good work to you too, Mom. By now, I too had started affectionately referring to Auntie as Mom. As it turned out, Mom lived nearby, and we often bumped into each other after work or at the local grocery store. We became close and had many conversations. She wasn't just good at listening but also at drawing out stories. Before I knew it, I had told her about my demotion and how I had feelings for Miss Johnson. One day, it was decided that the CEO would come for a factory inspection. What's more, he would be bringing his daughter along. Apparently, he was aggressively trying to get her to succeed him, despite the company not being a family business. I was to greet the CEO and his daughter along with the department head.
Well, I thought you'd have quit by now. But you're a persistent one. Working in this grubby little factory suits you.
As the CEO's daughter smirked at me, the CEO continued.
This is your punishment for making a pass at my daughter. You will spend the rest of your life working here and repenting.
I clenched my fist, shaking with rage, and glared at the CEO. I never sexually harassed your daughter. I merely rejected her advances.
You don't think my daughter would lie, do you? If you cause any more trouble, I'll fire you.
Like daughter, like father. Just then, a figure walking from the factory yelled in our direction.
Who do you think you are?
I immediately recognized it was Mom's voice and was so surprised that my heart nearly jumped out of my chest. Mom, hearing about my demotion, must have come in high spirits to give the CEO a piece of her mind out of a strong sense of justice. However, I was afraid that she would lose her job if she did something like that.
And you, who the hell are you?
The CEO, in a fit of rage, was becoming emotional. When I thought things were going bad, Mom removed her headscarf and started yelling at the CEO.
You will not forget my face.
Even I, who was trying to defend Mom, could not speak out at the sound of her powerful and intimidating voice. Then, the CEO's face turned pale.
You, the CEO, why on earth are you here?
While I was confused about why the CEO was calling Mom the CEO.
It seems I was wrong to have trusted you and handed over the CEO position when you were just a director.
It was revealed that my mom was the former CEO, and I was astounded.
You seem to have been doing whatever you like. I have received investigation reports from reliable people at headquarters. And you, young lady.
The CEO's daughter shivered as she was called young lady.
You two, be prepared.
The CEO and his daughter left without visiting the factory, as if fleeing the scene. I apologize for not knowing that you were the former CEO. As I apologized, a loud laughter echoed.
You can just call me Mom. I retired as CEO quite a while ago, so it's only natural that you didn't know. I'm also working in the employee cafeteria, keeping my identity a secret.
I asked her why she retired as CEO and was working in the cafeteria.
After all, I just love this company. While there is satisfaction in leading from the top as the CEO, it's also fun to support from the bottom, listening to the employees up close.
I thought it was a very mom-like way of thinking. The next day, Mom called for an emergency meeting, and a board meeting was held at headquarters. She had retired as CEO, but she remained as chairperson in name only, with the authority to serve as chairman when the CEO was unable to do so. At the board meeting, it was revealed one after another that the CEO had been threatening the board members, putting pressure on personnel to give his daughter a vice president position, and that the CEO's daughter had not been working, pushing her work onto others.
Those of you who couldn't stop the CEO's reckless actions are also responsible.
Mom reprimanded the board members, and it was decided by resolution that Mom would return as CEO for a while. The CEO was dismissed, and the CEO's daughter, who had become uncomfortable, left the company in the form of voluntary retirement. The news that Mom had returned as CEO spread to the factory. The factory manager and our section manager knew that she was the former CEO, but they had been sworn to secrecy, so no one else knew. Feeling the loneliness of not being able to hear Mom's lively voice in the cafeteria, I continued to work as usual. One day, I was called from headquarters. When I knocked on the door of the CEO's office, there was Mom, not in a headscarf and apron, but in a cool pantsuit. As I was about to bow, no need for formal greetings, just take a seat. She offered me the sofa, and I couldn't help but smile at her changing character.
Tomorrow, at the board meeting, I'll appoint you as the managing director, Mr. Anderson. Please accept the position.
I couldn't hide my surprise at the sudden request. Me, a managing director, I even forgot to correct my informal way of addressing myself and shouted,
I've looked into your performance in general affairs. I trust you can take over for me. Unlike those board members who have been swayed by the former CEO.
I worried if I was ready for such a significant role, but I was driven by the desire to support Mom, who once retired but returned to the position of CEO to protect the company she loved and to carry on her legacy. I understand. I'm inexperienced, but I'll do my best. After that, I was appointed as the managing director by a resolution at the board meeting, and I was set to return to the head office. I had one regret, Miss Johnson. I was strongly attracted to her. She was kind and considerate, but also held her own opinions and displayed genuine strength. Overcoming my past traumas, I gathered up the courage to confess my feelings to her. Miss Johnson, it's because of you that I was able to change my attitude towards administrative work and take on my tasks enthusiastically. Will you please come to New York with me? I want to spend the rest of my life with you. While I was terrified that she might reject me, Miss Johnson gave a soft smile.
I was feeling lonely hearing that you would be moving to the head office. Please, let me go with you.
If I had stayed at the head office and married my ex-girlfriend, my married life would undoubtedly have been a disaster. I never thought being transferred would turn my fate in such a wonderful direction.
Is your wedding preparation with Kathy progressing? A wedding is a big event for a woman. Make sure you listen to her properly.
While having lunch with Mom, I was being lectured in her usual manner. I understand. Currently, I'm learning the art of leadership from Mom while serving as a busy managing director. I'm also preparing for my wedding with Catherine next month and have asked Mom to be our matchmaker. When we return from our honeymoon, Mom plans to pass the CEO position to me and return to her role as a cafeteria lady. Listening to Mom's endless sermon, I made a commitment to protect and nurture the company and its employees that she loves like her own child.
Really quitting, huh?
Yeah, I have a soft spot for a woman's tears.
You got a lady crying over you, huh? Well, can't help that. Take care of yourself, all right.
Yeah? I shook hands with my coworker and friend, then left the scene. Thank you for always taking care of my sister. I'm her younger brother, Michael. Nice to meet you all. I greeted the people seated across from me.
You're Emily's brother, all right. Your greeting is so polite. Alice, you should learn from this.
He's going to be your brother-in-law. He's 25, close to your age of 22. You two should get along.
Upon hearing these words from her parents, the young woman gave me a sharp look, as if she was appraising me. Then, without meeting my eyes, she greeted me in a small voice that sounded like she wasn't particularly interested in being friendly. Nice to meet you, she mumbled. Perhaps he was embarrassed by her curt attitude. A man hastily tried to explain.
So sorry. She's a little shy around new people.
At the man's words, Alice turned her head away.
It's all right, Eugene. My little brother doesn't sweat the small stuff. So don't worry about it.
The man called Eugene breathed a sigh of relief at the woman's words.
Thanks, Emily. Sorry, Michael.
The woman called Emily turned to me with a smile.
It's okay, right, Michael?
Yeah, I don't care at all, sis. Eugene and his sister Alice, and their parents, along with me and my sister Emily, were seated in a private room at a high-end restaurant. This was a meeting between Eugene's family and my sisters. Eugene, I feel at ease entrusting my sister to you. Isn't that right, Mom and Dad? I said this as I looked at the two picture frames on the table. One held a picture of my mother. The other, a picture of my father. Both my parents had passed away in an accident when I was in middle school. At that time, my sister, who was still in high school, took on more part-time jobs and worked hard for my sake. I was genuinely happy that she was getting married. I'm not bothered in the least by Alice's attitude. Eugene, please, take care of my sister. As I bowed my head and said this, Emily, perhaps overcome by emotion, she tearfully hugged me.
You'll be alone in the Thompsons' household, but you'll always be my brother, okay?
Seeing us like this, Eugene's parents also teared up.
Of course, we welcome Emily into our family, but you can also consider us as your real parents, Michael.
Yeah, and if you'd like, think of Alice and Eugene as your real siblings. Oh, how about this? Let's exchange contact information. Here, Alice, exchange your contact details with Michael, who's going to be your brother-in-law.
At their father's suggestion, Alice grimaced and said, Come on, urged by their father, a reluctant Alice took out her phone. You don't have to force yourself, I thought, trying not to show my inner amusement, and I also took out my phone. You only need to contact me when you need something, I said, displaying my contact information QR code for Alice to scan. After a little while, I received a text message from Alice. It was a cat emoji with a message saying, "Nice to meet you." Seems like she's not a bad kid at heart. Well, nice to meet you, I said to Alice, who turned away once again. It seems like it's going to take time to become friends. With a wry smile, I turned to her parents this time. Again, please take care of my sister. To my sincere request, the parents nodded in agreement. And so, it was decided that Emily would marry Eugene. The wedding went off without a hitch, the marriage license was submitted, and Emily and Eugene officially became wife and husband. Emily left the house we lived in and moved to the house where she'd live with Eugene, leaving me alone at last. Phew, finally got rid of Emily, huh? I looked around the quiet house. Then, I started to recall the times when I lived with Emily. Back when Emily was here, it was all get up early, don't be picky about food, go to bed early, it was noisy. But now that she's gone, it's quiet. It's lonely, isn't it? Right, I have to go shopping. I remember wanting to buy something. With that in mind, I slung my shoulder bag over and left the house. On the train to my destination, I was checking directions on my smartphone when a news headline caught my eye. Beauty hunt? Beauty hunt, what's that? Reading the news article, it seemed that in the area I was heading to, there had been several cases of women being forcefully taken away by a group of 3 men. Since all the victims were beautiful women, the public had named the incident as Beauty Hunt. Well, with that thought, I closed my smartphone. It doesn't concern me since I'm a manual. And I got off at my destination station and walked through the city. Just then, I spotted Alice, Eugene's younger sister, and my Sil, walking by. I instinctively hid in the shadow of a building and watched Alice secretly. Oh, Alice, despite the dangerous situation, why is she here? I covertly followed Alice from the shadows. Alice is quite a beauty. Seemingly unaware of it herself, all the men near Alice were turning around to look at her. Regardless of the beauty hunt, I was worried that some weird guys might stalk her. She seems to be going into that store. Inside, there would be other people's eyes, so it should be safe. Thinking this, I was about to stop tailing from the shadows when it happened.
Hey, beautiful lady. You're cute, aren't ya?
Where you from, or are you a local?
Alone, wanna hang with us?
A group of 3 flashy guys started to chat up Alice. Alice, smartphone in hand, looked at the trio suspiciously.
No, thank you.
Don't make that face. It spoils your cute looks.
Yeah, don't be so cold.
Come on, let's have some fun with us.
The trio started touching Alice's arm, shoulder, and back.
Stop it. I'm going to call for help.
At the same moment Alice said this, my phone vibrated with a buzz. For a moment, my eyes shifted to my smartphone in hand, a single message displayed on the screen.
Help me.
It was a message from Alice. Had she remembered the words I had said when we exchanged contact information a while back? You can contact me when something happens. Those jerks. I leapt from the shadow of the building. And the first place I ran to was where Alice was. Alice. As I headed towards Alice, she shook off the hand of the trio that had grabbed her and clung to my arm.
This man, he's my boyfriend. So.
At Alice's spur-off-the-moment lie, I was also taken aback and exclaimed, "What? Shoot. I should have gone along with her." Hurriedly, I held Alice's hand, and whether it was out of fear or not, Alice strongly squeezed my hand back. The trio, looking at me with scorn, suddenly started to laugh.
This guy is your boyfriend? Seriously? Haha.
A dorky glasses-wearing guy with shaggy hair. Haha.
We're definitely a better choice than this guy. Haha.
Amid the insults, I pulled Alice's hand. We're leaving now. Excuse us. As I tried to leave the scene, the trio blocked our path.
Whoa, not so fast, I warned.
If you want to leave, you'll have to leave her behind.
If you don't want trouble, better stay back. We're not afraid to take you down.
One of them sneered, the lanky guy threatening with a smirk. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught one of them flashing a knife, careful to only let me see. I sighed deeply. Really now? I took off my glasses. Then I carefully placed them in my fanny pack, running my hand through my unkempt hair. Guess I'll have to clean up the trash. My words seemed to flip a switch in the trio who had previously been grinning. Who are you calling trash? One of them lunged at me. Swiftly, I sidestepped, grabbing his outstretched arm with one hand, and with a twist, used his momentum to throw him over my shoulder. He didn't move after that, possibly unconscious. The other two looked furious. You think you're so great. One yelled, "We're going to kill you." They both charged at me, one with a fist, the other with his knife. I grabbed both their arms, twisted them in opposite directions, and threw them aside just like their friend.
Ouch, that hurts.
I think you broke my arm. What are you going to do about this?
Both were writhing in pain, immobilized by the shock. Hey, Alice, could you call the police? She had been watching the scene in stunned silence. Alice, still looking shell-shocked, managed to stutter out an agreement and dialed 911 on her cell phone. To our luck, a patrol car was nearby and 2 officers arrived within about 10 minutes. The arriving officers looked stunned at the scene before them. The shock was not just for the scene, but one of the officers recognized me.
Michael, is that you, Michael?
I recognized the face of the police officer. You, Thomas, right. Finished your stint at the precinct, I see.
Yeah, what about you? You doing okay in the private sector?
Well, fair to middling. But more importantly, could you nab those guys for me? They were resorting to violence, even had knives on them.
It seems like they're already apprehended. They just had some bad luck.
No, the one with bad luck was me.
Well, I guess that's true. You're just a civilian now. My bad.
As Thomas, the cop, and I exchanged words, Alice looked perplexed and interjected, Seeing Alice's confused expression, Thomas clapped me on the shoulder.
What's the matter, Michael? Haven't you explained it to your girlfriend?
No, she's not my girlfriend.
Don't be so modest. She probably wants to know, right?
When Thomas said this to Alice, she seemed really curious and nodded silently.
Well, this guy, he used to be in the SWAT.
SWAT?
It's a special police unit.
Now, for some reason, I'm in a cafe with Alice.
So, you're saying you used to be a cop, Michael?
After being questioned and released by the police 2 hours after the incident, I tried to take Alice home, but she said she was thirsty and wanted some tea, and instead of buying a drink from a nearby vending machine, I was made to walk all the way to a cafe. On top of that, I had to foot the bill for our drinks and cake, and now we're sitting across from each other at a table. Well, yeah, that's pretty much it.
I looked it up on my phone just now, and it seems like you have to be really outstanding to get into the SWAT. Why did you quit if you were so good?
Well, there's a reason for that.
A reason?
My sister, she cried.
Emily?
I remembered the tear-streaked face of my sister, who rarely cries. It was a year ago. I had done well in police academy, joined the riot police for a year, and was then selected to be a member of the SWAT. 3 years after being selected for the SWAT, a horrendous incident occurred. It was a bus hijacking, and the perpetrator had a handgun. When firearms are involved, the SWAT is deployed. I was also deployed for this incident.
All right, we're going to storm the bus. Just like in the simulation we did earlier, Team A will rescue the hostages, and Team B will subdue the perpetrator. Don't screw up.
Roger that. I was on Team B.
Storm the bus.
At the command, we in the SWAT stormed the bus with our shields. It was a plan to subdue the perpetrator by overwhelming them with numbers and shields. I was at the very front. If things kept going as they were, we could safely subdue the perpetrator. But there was one miscalculation. The perpetrator had a firearm with piercing power, different from what we had anticipated. Bang, bang! 2 gunshots rang out. 1 bullet penetrated my shield, and the other penetrated my unprotected shoulder. I felt time slow down between hearing the gunshots and getting shot. I almost fell backwards, but Thomas, who was behind me, propped me up with his shield, and I snapped back to reality. Damn, I was about to lose consciousness. Regaining my footing, I charged at the perpetrator. Perpetrator subdued. Despite 1 casualty, the hostages were safely rescued and the operation was a success. I, the injured party, collapsed on the spot as soon as the mission was over. I was rushed to the hospital and underwent emergency surgery. When I opened my eyes, there was my sister, her eyes swollen from crying. Oh sis. But before I could finish calling her, she yelled at me.
Idiot.
Yeah, is that the first thing you say to your brother, who's just come back from a life-or-death mission?
I know you became a cop, but what's with this durable injury? I wasn't informed about this.
I had no choice. It's a job I can't talk about to family. Please understand. As I asked her with a bitter smile, tears started streaming down her face. Seeing my sister like this, a rare sight, I was taken aback.
I can't take it.
Hey, sis, please don't cry. While I was struggling to calm her down, she managed to say between sobs,
After Mom and Dad passed away. If you're gone too, what should I do?
Even if I'm not around, you have Eugene, right? But instead, she shouted at me angrily, Nobody can replace you. And then she burst into tears, wailing loudly,
Idiot, idiot, idiot. If you die, I swear, I will never hold a memorial service for you.
Do you even intend to help me pass on?
If I let you, I will be all alone, you ungrateful brother. I won't forgive you for forgetting all the things I've done for you. I won't ever forgive you.
My sister kept hitting my chest as she cried. Ouch, sis, that's where I was shot, so stop hitting me, ouch. I somehow managed to grab her arm and stop her while enduring the pain from my wound. After a while, she seemed to calm down and her arm fell weakly.
You know, Eugene proposed to me.
Oh, are you kidding? Who in their right mind would propose to my violent sister? What a daredevil. Seems like my thoughts were showing on my face. My sister shot me a glare. No, number, it's nothing. After hastily saying that, my sister stopped glaring at me. Then she made a request.
So at least, live until I get married, and have a child, and that child gets married, and I have a grandchild.
Wait, so you're basically asking me to live a full life?
Answer me if you understand.
Yays? After that, my sister kept crying and I comforted her throughout the day. There's a 5-year term in the SWAT, and I was planning to return to the police force after a short while. But there's no guarantee that I won't face any danger as long as I continue being a cop, so…
Did you quit?
In response to Alice's question, I gave her a bitter smile and nodded. I can't defy Emily, and I'm weak to a woman's tears.
So, that's what happened.
Seeing Alice's indescribable expression, I gave her a gentle smile. Well, my experience wasn't wasted. After all, it helped me save you, Alice. Hearing this, Alice's face turned red and she looked away. I guess it's still going to take some time before we can get along. Feeling a little hurt by Alice's behavior, she turned her face back to me. And she stared at me? What's going on?
Michael, that glasses and that hairstyle, you might want to stop.
Alice said, baffling me with her suggestion. A question mark popped up in my head. Why?
You're not aware, are you, Michael?
She replied, looking inexplicably annoyed, then abruptly stood up from her seat.
I'll be heading home. Thanks for the meal.
She announced. Oh, let me walk you home. I quickly stood up and followed her. Throughout the walk, she didn't say a word. Unable to bear the silence, I decided to strike up a conversation. Hey, Alice, you seemed upset during the family meeting. Any particular reason? The question seemed to rub her the wrong way. She stopped in her tracks and frowned, making me regret my choice of topic. Of all the things I could have asked, why this? I wondered to myself. She said, avoiding eye contact.
You had taken off your glasses and properly styled your hair that day, hadn't you?
Oh, yeah. Having a biggish body frame, I usually tried not to intimidate people with my look. So, I usually wear non-prescription glasses and leave my hair messy. But I made an effort for the family meeting so I wouldn't be rude. It was a family meeting, after all. Why do you ask?
Looking directly into your eyes was embarrassing.
Why? I was confused, then she blushed, ruffling my hair. Whoa, what?
Yes, that's better. And put on your glasses.
Papa?
Hurry up.
Okay. The decisiveness in her voice caught me off guard. I hurriedly pulled out my glasses from my bag and put them on. Is this okay? I asked, unsure. Alice then met my gaze, which she'd avoided earlier.
Yes, just stay like this. It's easier to talk to you this way.
Okay? Although I didn't quite understand, Alice seemed content. I wasn't on her bad side, it seemed. With that realization, a wave of happiness washed over me and we resumed our walk. Once we reached her home, I was about to turn on my heel and say see you later, when she grabbed my arm. Alice.
Thank you.
Huh?
Thank you for helping me. I want to thank you properly.
Thank you. No, you don't have to thank me. As long as you're safe, that's… Before I could finish, she grabbed the collar of my shirt. Well, what are you doing, Alice? I exclaimed, startled as something soft touched my lips. I felt it only for a moment before realizing that Alice's face was inches away from mine and she was blushing furiously.
If I marry into the Thompsons, you won't be alone anymore, will you?
What do you? She started running towards her house before I could finish my sentence. Just as Alice stepped into the house, my smartphone buzzed. A message, I mumbled, looking at the screen. It was a message from Alice.
I'll cook a thank you meal next time. Is it okay if I do it at your place, Michael?
Reading this, I chuckled to myself. I thought I'd be lonely after my sister moved out. But it doesn't seem that way. I quickly typed a reply to her message. I'll be waiting.
Hey Johnson, wearing the same old clothes again? Living broke with your grandma really suits you, haha.
As per usual, I was being harassed by my classmate, Bob. Bob always bragged about his dad working for a top tire company. He loudly boasted about his weekend trips to theme parks and movie theaters, as well as family trips abroad during summer vacations, making sure everyone heard him. Most classmates probably disliked Bob internally. However, he was tall and muscular for a kid, like a boss of the class, so no one dared to defy him. He especially targeted me, living in poverty with my grandmother, and harassed me almost daily. If my mom and dad were still alive, I wouldn't have to feel this miserable. I clenched my fist, shaking in anger. At 11, I lost my parents in an earthquake. It was during spring break, and I happened to be staying at my grandma's place. I was shocked by the footage on the TV, and when I saw my parents' names among the casualties, I was stunned. After the quake, when Grandma and I returned to our hometown, the entire area was devastated. Homes, facilities, and factories were destroyed and washed away. Where our house once stood, rubble and debris from elsewhere were piled up. The tsunami didn't just take my parents and home. It washed away all our memories. I was taken in by my grandma amidst this unexpected tragedy, unsure where to direct my anger. Grandpa had already passed away, and Grandma lived on a meager pension. With little to no financial flexibility, Grandma struggled to raise me. Previously, she was content with a simple meal, but now with me growing and eating more, expenses increased. Costs of school items like backpacks, gym clothes, and swimsuits, not to mention school lunches and field trip fees. Despite conserving our savings as much as possible, we barely managed to get by. As I reached middle school, preparing for college expenses, Grandma started working at a nearby convenience store. Grandma married Grandpa right after graduating and hadn't worked before. Though she never complained to me, I sometimes caught a glimpse of her weary face, showing her struggles with the job. Despite the hardship, she never just spoiled me. She taught me good manners and discipline, emphasizing never to inconvenience others. I didn't want to burden her, so I never told her about the bullying. One day, I was heading to the store where Grandma worked. It was to pick up expired lunch boxes. The store, run by a franchise owner, typically discards items past their sell-by date. But considering Grandma's situation, the owner let us have the bread and lunch boxes. So on days when Grandma worked late, I'd pick up my share right after school, before the evening rush. It had been a year and a half since Grandma started working there. Lately, she'd been saying the job's become easier, and she enjoys working with her friendly manager and colleagues. But considering her age, It must still be tough. I wanted to ease her burden as soon as I could. As I entered the store, I unfortunately spotted Bob and his dad. I wanted to turn back, but Bob caught sight of me. I'll get the lunchbox after Bob and his dad leave. That was my plan, but it wasn't just Bob who noticed me.
John, here's your lunchbox. It just went past its sell-by date a couple of hours ago. Get home and eat it fast.
As Grandma handed me the lunchbox, I hung my head in shame. I felt my face burn and my stomach churned. Even with my head down, I sensed Bob smirking and approaching me.
You eat expired lunchboxes? Just what I expected from someone as po as you are.
Grandma gasped upon hearing Bob. She was unaware that Bob was my classmate or that he was bullying me. It was distressing to think that this incident would reveal everything to Grandma. Noticing our interaction, Bob's dad, who was browsing the aisles, started walking towards us.
Dad, this guy is in my class, and he's eating expired lunchboxes.
I hoped that he would reprimand his ill-mannered son, but as they say, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Hey, you can't just take lunchboxes without permission. Can't believe one of Bob's classmates would steal.
He glared accusingly at me and Grandma. Grandma looked away, tears forming in her eyes. Just then, a young female cashier intervened.
This isn't being taken without permission. The manager, understanding Johnson's family situation, allowed them to take 2 discarded lunches. All the staff members are aware of this.
She stood protectively in front of me and Grandma, explaining firmly. However, even after it was proven that the lunches were rightfully given, Bob's father did not apologize.
Still, eating expired lunches. It's unbelievable. Being po sure is pathetic.
He smirked, looking down on us with disdain. I felt a burning anger, my hands trembling as I held the lunch.
How could you say something like that? You better apologize.
The female cashier raised her voice, but Bob's father yelled back at her.
Shut up. Who do you think you are? Just a part-time cashier at a convenience store, talking back to me?
Seeing the situation escalating, the cashier looked Bob's father straight in the eye.
Let me ask you the same question. Are you sure you want to be talking to me like that?
She then added quietly.
You work for Foster Industries, right? I'll be reporting your behavior today to the CEO, who happens to be my father. Be prepared.
Immediately, Bob's father paled.
You're the CEO's daughter.
He was visibly shaken. I deeply apologize. Please, let's keep this matter private. It's unrelated to work, he said, bowing deeply. A stark contrast to his arrogant demeanor earlier. Bob seemed confused about what was happening.
I once accompanied a company trip and saw how you acted. You were submissive to my father and your superiors, but very arrogant to your subordinates. I'm not an employee and didn't want to get involved, but I now realize that having someone like you in the company is an issue.
Hearing her words, Bob's father quickly realized that apologizing would be futile. He motioned for Bob to follow him, and they hurriedly left the convenience store.
Thank you so much, Susan.
Grandma bowed to Susan, and I quickly followed suit in thanking her.
It's all right. Oh, a customer has arrived. I need to get back to the counter.
She noticed a customer entering and went back to work. I felt it would be rude to disturb during the store's busy hours, so I called out to Grandma and left. That evening, Grandma brought Susan home.
You must have felt terrible, right? I'm sorry.
Looking guilty, Susan apologized. No, it's not your fault at all. Thank you for helping us, I replied, and she gave a warm smile.
Johnson is my savior. I just couldn't stay silent.
Susan explained that after college, she was living comfortably, helping with housework as told by her mother. However, wanting some real-world experience, she took a part-time job at the convenience store. Being pampered all her life, she made many mistakes at work, causing trouble for the manager and co-workers. That's when Grandma stepped in and helped her, teaching her not just about the job but also about good manners and etiquette. She said, "Susan is like another grandchild to me," to which Susan nodded in agreement. I felt a warm and fuzzy feeling inside as I listened to the story. Later on, Bob and his family moved away due to his father's job transfer. I learned from Susan that it was a demotion and he was sent to a remote branch.
Damn it, this is all your fault.
Bob shouted at me, but his words didn't bother me at all. With the way he acted, it was clear that Bob would have trouble making friends at his new school. With him gone, the class environment became much brighter. A change of seats in class brought me some new friends, and school became much more enjoyable. I was uncertain about my future after graduation, but with Grandma's encouragement, I decided to pursue college. I studied hard and was accepted into my top choice school. But just as I was about to graduate from high school, a dark cloud loomed over my life. Grandma fell ill and couldn't work anymore. Though her life was not in danger, she would be out of work for a while, which meant no income and mounting medical bills. I decided to forgo college and start working to support us. I originally wanted to work so I could give my grandma a break. It just happened sooner than expected. Right around that time, Susan came to visit my grandma in the hospital. Susan had already quit her part-time job at the convenience store and was working at her father's company. She heard about my grandma's hospitalization from a former co-worker at the store and made the effort to visit. Not only did Susan bring a gift for my grandma, she also gave me a present to celebrate my college acceptance. It looked like a high-quality, black leather pencil case from a renowned brand. Thank you so much. But I'm not planning to go to college. When I replied like that, my grandma was taken aback.
John, I'm so sorry. Because I had to be hospitalized. I'm sorry I can't support you for your future.
The savings my grandma had set aside for my college were spent on hospital bills, treatments, and medications. It's okay. I didn't really want to go to college. I'll work hard now, even for the both of us. I said with a smile, not wanting my grandma to feel guilty. Then, Susan turned to me.
John, I'll cover your college tuition.
Shocked by the sudden offer, I exclaimed, "What?"
In return, I want you to work with me after you graduate. Then, you won't have to repay the tuition.
Susan is currently working with her father, but she's considering starting her own business. As I hesitated and thought of declining, she said, "Consider this as a scholarship from me. I want to invest in a young person with a bright future. If you perform well in the future, it's a profitable investment for the company. What do you say?" Susan's passionate persuasion brought tears to my eyes. It wasn't a lie when I said I wanted to work right after high school to repay my grandma's kindness. Yet, deep down, I still had an unyielding desire to pursue a college education, just like everyone else. Okay, I'll study hard in college and do my best to be useful. Thank you so much for this opportunity, I said, tears streaming down my face as I bowed deeply.
Thank you so much, Susan.
My grandma, too, was tearful as she repeatedly thanked Susan. I vowed to work hard to repay the kindness Susan, who had saved both my grandma and Aunt Weiss, had shown us.
Shut up. If you can't listen to what I say, get out.
A cup hastily thrown hits the wall, shattering into pieces. Dad has always been like this. He'd yell almost daily, saying he's the head honcho around here and anyone who opposes him should leave. The Johnson family has blue-blooded roots, and I've heard that since my great-grandfather's generation, all the boys were groomed to become bankers. For Dad, that prestigious lineage is a point of pride. As the eldest son of such a family, I was an average Joe in both academics and sports, far from the shining star. Constantly butting heads with Dad's beliefs surely didn't make me his favorite. He'd call me a fool, a disappointment, and the black sheep of the family. But no matter what he said, my beliefs never wavered. Dad's adamant belief was my son will definitely enroll in the prestigious local university and graduate from its affiliate school, starting from kindergarten. No other path is acceptable. I'm sure the university is indeed prestigious, having produced many renowned individuals. However, no matter how good a university is, if it doesn't offer what you want to learn, there's no point. And I'm sure as hell didn't want to be forced by my parents to enroll. I secretly consulted with my mom behind my dad's back and decided to transfer to a public middle school instead of moving on to the next grade at my current school. When my dad found out, he was furious at first, but after a while, it seemed like he thought it was a waste to even bother, so he stopped saying anything. For a while, I was worried because my mom's cheeks were red and swollen, but when she stroked my head and told me not to worry, I couldn't say anything. My 2-year-old younger brother's name was Mike. Unlike me, he was an honor student who was good at both studying and sports and had many friends. Dad started to show even more interest in Mike, and being pampered and spoiled, Mike began to look down on me alongside Dad. Little by little, I felt like I didn't belong at home, and my return times became increasingly late. The only reason I didn't leave home was for my mom, who was my only ally. Dad was very chauvinistic, and Mom, who had been oppressed for years, was always scared. One day, when I saw my mom crying after being hit by my dad, I told her, "Let's run away from here." But Mom just shook her head and said we have to endure until you guys become adults. Mom, who got married young, had never worked before, and with her parents passed away, she had no place to return to.
If it's just living on my own, I could live by myself, but I can't raise kids on my own. I'd rather get hit than be separated from my beloved children.
I still remember her trembling shoulders as she hugged me and said that, although I resented my dad, I had no dreams or goals and started to spend time in secluded places to escape reality. Reading books in the corner of a churchyard or casually climbing a nearby hill. One day, after a chance encounter, I found a purpose. I started working without going to college, and in the blink of an eye, 8 years passed. While I don't earn a high salary and the job is tough, I'm truly happy working alongside a fantastic mentor and doing what I love. I often had to be away from home because of work, but at Mom's request, I've always made it a point to spend New Year's at home. As midnight approached on New Year's Eve, when I got home from work, my dad and Mike were having a drinking party, their faces flushed with alcohol.
Hey William, working this late. Dummies sure have a hard time with work that suits you.
My tirelessly caring mom goes unnoticed, while my damn father, who disdains me, bursts into crude laughter. I really want to get out of this place right away, but right now, I can't afford to support my mother. Frustrated, grinding my teeth, Mike, who'd been laughing alongside my father, finally spoke up.
Hey, I got a job offer from Dad's bank. Unlike you, I'm competent. Fitting for a Johnson, don't you think?
Drunk on liquor he's not used to, he's slurring, and yet he manages to be so snide. Same bank as Dad, huh? I feel sorry for the people working there with these jerks. As I expected, there wasn't even a glass set for me. I ate my special meal alone in my room. Throughout the first few days of the year, Mike kept boasting about his job offer. Dad would compare Mike and me, hurling verbal abuses and throwing random things at me.
I'm ashamed to have a son like you. Bring shame to the Johnsons and you better leave.
Television remotes, empty liquor bottles, and ashtrays have become all too familiar projectiles aimed at me. I've gotten pretty good at dodging these thrown objects, but that only seemed to anger my old man even more. After New Year's was over, Mom saw me off to work, but she was quickly summoned by my dad. Just when I thought things were getting back to normal after a tumultuous holiday season, something else happened. On my way back to the workshop, with a load of wood in the back of my pickup, I accidentally made eye contact with Mike. I don't know why he was walking down that deserted country road, but he burst into laughter upon seeing me.
It's so funny. Look at you doing some dirty manual labor. Guess that's all dimwits like you are good for.
Looking at the wood in my truck, he probably thought I was a logger or carpenter and kept making condescending remarks about manual labor. I considered ignoring him and moving on, but my mentor in the passenger seat spoke up.
Hey now, don't mock this young man, and don't belittle someone's profession.
Mike, clearly irritated by my mentor's calm demeanor, shot back.
Shut up. At your age, you're still working just to make ends meet. Who are you to act all high and mighty?
This guy mocking me is one thing, but to disrespect my mentor too. As anger welled up inside me, I impulsively tried to get out of the car and confront him, but my mentor held me back.
William, stop it. Your hands aren't meant for this.
Those words snapped me back to reality, and I regained my composure. He is right. If I lashed out now, I'd never be better than him. Still huffing, Mike glared at us. I simply told him, "You're gonna regret this," and pressed the gas pedal. "What's the big idea, leaving like that?" he shouted, and then I heard a loud thud. Wondering what he had thrown this time, I saw a dented empty plastic bottle rolling in the back of the truck. Well, no use getting upset over it now. Time to move on. It did irk me when he insulted my mentor, but punching him would only soil my hands and wouldn't make him reflect on his actions. He might only regret it when his self-worth as a successful son is challenged. I had no idea then that such a moment would indeed come. A bit later, my mentor and I went to deliver some goods to a luxury hotel. The hotel owner asked to carry the boxes to a particular room. I walked down the hallway holding one. Just as I thought I'd turn the corner and reach the room where my mentor was waiting, I heard a familiar, demeaning laughter. I turned around, frowning heavily at the bad feeling, and sure enough, there was my father and Mike, pointing and laughing at me. I figured they were probably there for some sort of celebration for Mike, but my mother was nowhere in sight.
What are you doing here, carrying boxes? This isn't a shelter for the homeless. Did you know that?
Homeless? How could he say that, even to his own son? Sure, I'm in my work clothes, but still. It's work. Just delivering these as requested. Getting all worked up for nothing is something I've learned from experience. I wanted to get out of this situation as quickly as possible, so I decided to get by with minimal conversation.
It sounds so funny. You're not a laborer, but a delivery guy. If it wasn't for your job, I bet you couldn't even step foot in a place like this. That's so lucky, aren't you?
Behind the two doubled over with laughter, a hotel staff member wears a worried expression. As I was wondering what to do, the sliding door opened and mentor peeked out. Looking different from when he's at work, wearing suits and his hair well combed, Mike burst into laughter.
Sounds terrible. Even when he tries to look good, he still seems like a poor old man.
Mike pinches his nose and waves his hand in front of his face, laughing and indicating something stinks. On the other hand, my dad, realizing who Mentor was, turned pale. No wonder, my master's name is John Fitzgerald. He's a world-renowned PATA, a national treasure, and also the major shareholder of the bank where my dad works. My dad, holding an executive position, obviously knows the consequences of upsetting such an influential person. I didn't intend to involve my master in my family issues, but it's their own doing since they went this far.
Mike, you must apologize to the professor right now.
Being forced to kneel by my dad, Mike, looking bewildered, muttered, "Huh, why?"
I let your recent mischief slide because you're his student, but I won't stay silent anymore.
Hearing Mentor's words, my dad started shaking in fear. Back when I was in middle school, I aimlessly walked a trail in the nearby Colorado mountains and somehow found myself in his studio. Captivated by the unfinished ceramics, Mentor showed me many of his works. I only learned he was the famous John Fitzgerald, known for not taking in students, when I asked to be his apprentice in high school. I could feel the magnificence of the artwork, but I was dumbfounded when I realized he was a national treasure.
Might be interesting to have an apprentice before I kick the bucket. You seem to have a good eye for things.
With that, my apprenticeship was accepted, and now we travel to various places together. Even though we lived under the same roof and I didn't go home often, the two of them had no idea what I was up to. Well, I never told them, but they never asked, and I didn't see the need to enlighten them either. My dad and Mike, pale-faced and apologizing deeply, listened as the mentor said, "You'll hear good news soon," before he left the hotel. A few days later, at the shareholders meeting, the mentor spoke about my dad and Mike. Mike's offer was rescinded due to the shareholders' concerns about him insulting a national treasure, even if unknowingly. Additionally, there was a strong sentiment against letting someone who had long belittled his own son hold a position of power. So, my dad was demoted to a staff member position under the strict guidance of a boss who was my dad's staff member. His once soaring pride seems to have been shattered. They're still family after all. While I don't feel the slightest bit sad about their predicament, I am glad our relatives working at the same bank were not affected.
William, fancy a break?
While I was adding wood to the kiln, Mom brought me some tea and snacks. Thanks to the mentor's arrangement, she started helping out in the workshop and moved out of that house. She now lives in an apartment nearby with me. For the first time, my mother earned her own salary. She's been buying clothes and cosmetics, things she used to ask my father's permission for. It seems she's gained confidence. Seeing her so much happier than before, I smile naturally. All alone in that house, my mom persevered for the sake of her kids. She was worried about Mike until the very end. But, influenced too much by my dad, Mike no longer heeded her words. Even if my dad and Mike change in the future, it's doubtful that Mom and I will ever go back. Now, as for my life as a PATA, I've finally started to shape the things I want to create. Thanks to my mentor's connections, I've been getting opportunities to showcase my work at reviews and exhibitions. My name is gradually getting recognized in the industry, and there have been visitors who have taken a liking to my creations. It's rare to get direct feedback, so hearing about people's tastes and their perspectives on beauty is enlightening. The value of a piece is determined by its viewer, but a creator has their own ideals too. I want to create something even more beautiful, something that resonates deeply with people. That pursuit is the essence of my life as a